So episode 1 in my Domestic Violence Awareness Month series is going to be talking about the death of 23-year-old Kelly Lynch. So Kelly Lynch lost her life in very suspicious circumstances on the 16th of March of 2024, and her body was found at the early hours of the morning on the 17th of March 2024, which is St. Patrick's Day here in Ireland. Kelly was from the north of Ireland, which sits in the United Kingdom, and she had a boyfriend in County Monaghan, which sits in the Republic of Ireland. However, there is only roughly a 30-minute drive between where Kelly was living from, where her parents, and where her boyfriend lives, but you cross an invisible border from the United Kingdom into the Republic of Ireland. On the night of the 13th of March of 2024, Kelly left her home that evening to go and visit her boyfriend in County Monaghan after receiving a phone call from him to advise her that his brother had passed away. Between Kelly arriving at her boyfriend's house on the evening of the 13th of March and the evening of the 16th of March, there was communication every day between Kelly and her mum, Julianne. This communication varied from text messages, phone calls, pictures being sent back and forth, but it was fairly constant and fairly common for this sort of communication to happen when Kelly was away from home. The last phone call took place on the 15th of March between Kelly and her mum. It was an on and off phone call that altogether lasted for about 30 minutes, and I think it was from about 5:30 p.m. to around 6 p.m. And during this phone call, Kelly was in the bathroom of a house, and she was just talking about her day and what was going on. And as there was a lot of grief and stuff in the house, she was updating her mum on that. At the time of this phone call, Kelly's boyfriend came into the room. Julianne paid her respects for the loss of his brother, and he promised Julianne that he would do everything he could to keep Kelly safe while she was away from home. This was the last phone call that Julianne had with her daughter. Throughout the day of the 16th of March, there was no communication between Kelly and her mum. However, Kelly did make multiple attempts to get in touch with her parents on the early hours of the morning of the 16th of March. Obviously, her parents were asleep at this time. There are younger siblings in the house. The phones were on silent and they didn't get these phone calls. But there was no communication later on throughout the day on the 16th of March. Early afternoon on the 17th of March, which is St. Patrick's Day, Julianne received a call from the PSNI, which is the Police Services of Northern Ireland, to advise her to stay off her phone as the An Garda Síochána in County Monaghan needed to get in touch with her. At about 1:10, they called to advise her that they had found the body of 23-year-old Kelly Marie Lynch in the Ulster Canal that morning. In the weeks that followed, there was a lot of back and forth between Kelly's family and the Guards, which is the Irish police force for the Republic of Ireland, and it was initially deemed that Kelly had drowned as she was found in the water. However, autopsy did later confirm that Kelly's cause of death was not drowning, and the only thing that we can be told is blunt force trauma. Julianne initially started to realise something wasn't right the first time she viewed Kelly's body. This was when she drove down to Navan, which is another county in the Republic of Ireland, to identify Kelly's body, and she realised based on the injuries that she could see something wasn't sitting quite right with her. And from this moment on, she would document everything that she saw and every bit of information she was given by the guards. After Kelly was laid to rest and in the months afterwards, there was a lot of back and forth between the family and the guards. There was very little being done, very little information being given, and eventually Kelly's mum and her dad, Sean, so Julianne and Sean, met with the Garda commissioner to see what more could be done, and eventually a peer review was approved. Really quickly, but essentially a peer review is when detectives that were not involved in the initial case come back together and look at all of the information and see whether or not anything was handled incorrectly or if there was anything that was missed. In my opinion, there was a lot. There were injuries on Kelly's body. Some sources say up to 94 different injuries on Kelly's body. There was blood found on her shoes. Her clothing didn't match where she was found. There was multiple things that were, in my opinion, caused by the hand of somebody else, and Kelly did not end up in that water because of an accident, a fall, or of her own accord. As of today, that's where we're at. That's unfortunately where this stops right now. The case is still under review. It is still being looked into. There have been complaints filed with GSOC, which is the ombudsman for the Guards. There has also been complaints lodged with Pony, which is the ombudsman for the Northern Irish Police Force, and everything is still in progress. There has been no updates, no information. All I can say is that I have seen photos of Kelly's belongings after Kelly was found, and I can, in my opinion confirmed that I strongly believe that this was not an accident, that this was not Kelly falling from a bridge. There are reports of an assault taking place a couple of hours prior. We don't know too much about that. There is things that her parents are not legally allowed to say. Her parents are being told to essentially keep quiet and stop, and that's not going to happen. There's a lot of YouTubers and TikTok creators that are out there still pushing information. BBC Spotlight did do an episode on this, so I would suggest taking a look. And I did also make a YouTube video reviewing the whole case with information that we had up until March of this year. So I posted that on the 1 year anniversary of Kelly's death. Not much information has been released since then, but I would strongly recommend taking a look and seeing what you think and forming your own opinion. But in my opinion, Kelly's video belongs in this series of victims of domestic abuse that have lost their lives in domestic violence, because I do not believe that this was an accident. I believe that Kelly lost her life as a result of a domestic dispute. Sorry that one was a bit longer than planned, but that was one that needed to be done. Tomorrow we'll discuss another person that has had serious impacts on their life due to domestic violence, while we try and raise awareness for domestic abuse and domestic violence in October. Thanks, guys.